Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast.
Like you've got those mountains, those huge peaks that are very well preserved, and you've got those sands, beach sand, like that are so pretty, but there are as they were before all the people arrive on the island. And this is probably the most magical thing about Corsica. It's pretty, but there's many pretty places on Earth, but this one has been preserved.
Well, for me, the action is the juice. I'm in.
I need you, brother. Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you.
Say the word, Chef.
Let it rip.
Adventure Enablers, the leader in adventure race tracking, timing, and race directing, brings you the 2026 Shenandoah Epic Adventure Race, April 11th to the 12th. Registration is now open for the 15th year of one of the East Coast's longest-running 24-hour adventure races. Trek, bike, paddle, and navigate through Virginia's stunning Shenandoah Valley and the rugged Massanutten Mountain Range. New for 2026, multiple transitions that'll keep you moving and strategizing for the full 24 hours. Whether you're an AR veteran or hungry for your first epic challenge, this is your rite of passage. Push limits, chase sunrises, write your story in the wild. Register now at adventureenablers.com. That's one word, adventureenablers.com. So recently, I was introduced to a new product, which is the Nuatak Carabiner water bottle. A family friend is part of the team putting it together, and he shared it with me, and I want to share it with you. So Nuatak it's a carabiner bottle. It has the carabiner built directly into the handle. Also, you can clip it to your pack, your bike, your harness, whatever you want to clip it to, and it will hold whatever's inside, cold for 40 hours and hot for 20. So long-lasting insulation. It's a nice thing to have in your pack, in your bin along the way. On top of that, Nuatak, is part of their social responsibility, gives back 5% of their profits go to protecting lands and lives impacted by climate change. So check it out at nuatak.com. That's nuataaq.com. If you use the code TheDarkZone, you can get a 10% discount and some free shipping. So take a look at this new bottle. Obviously, anything that we get from that code usage will be poured right back into the Dark Zone in support of the podcast and all the sponsorship activities that we have around the sport. So once again, take a moment, check out nuatak.com. Take a look at that water bottle. If you like it, you want to order it, feel free to use that code, the Dark Zone. You know, discount there and some free shipping. And if you like the item and the product, let us know what you think about it. We always like your feedback. Thanks. The Dark Zone is happy to introduce our community to adventure wear. That's one word, adventure wear, W-A-R-E, and they can be found at adventurewear.shop. A company founded by adventure racers for adventure racers. They offer a whole variety of products for the community, and check them out this holiday season. Custom engraved coasters, solid wood magnets, metal hangers that show off every hard-earned finish. You can celebrate your accomplishments and get some great products. So head over to adventurewear.shop and see what they have there. Once again, they are adventure racers offering products for the community. So support them by checking them out. Once again, adventurewear.shop, and the link is in the show notes. All right, everybody, episode 147 of The Dark Zone, Adventure Racing Podcast. On today's episode, we have Flavie Bahuaud from Raid in France. She is involved with the planning of the 2026 Adventure Racing World Championship in Corsica. Going to be a great race, and we are delighted to bring her onto the Dark Zone. This coincides with the opening of registration for the race. So if you head over to our show notes, you can see some links there and check out all things about Corsica. It is currently December in 2025, closing out another year for the Dark Zone. So grateful to have you here. Grateful for giving us your ears and your time. And as always, feel free to check out all of our episodes at ardarkzone.com. And of course, always send us your thoughts and ideas. We appreciate them. Enjoy the episode, and thanks for being here. Welcome to the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. Today we have Flavie Bahuaud. She is the child of Nancy and Pascal from Raid in France, who are putting on this year's World Championship to be held in Corsica, fall 2026. Flavie was kind enough to come on the show to talk a bit about the race, to give us an understanding of Corsica, an understanding of the why that selection of that place was chosen, what racers could expect, and we are delighted to have her on the show. I had a chance to spend time with her mom and dad at ARWC Canada, and they were delightful. And so obviously I'm excited to be here today. So Flavie, welcome to the Dark Zone. We're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to speak with you as well.
So this interview is coinciding with the opening of registration for Corsica 2026 Adventure Racing World Championship. Before we get into that, we get into Corsica. Talk to us a bit about your family's connection to adventure racing, your parents, how they've been involved in what they've done, because from what I understand, there's a very, very long history there. So tell us a bit about it.
Since I've been a child, honestly, it's been part of our family, adventure racing. Because when I was a kid, my dad, I think everything started when my dad retired from rowing. So he used to be a rower for France. He rowed for world champs and Olympics.
And the Olympics too. Your father was an Olympic level rower. Don't sneak that in there. Congratulations to him.
So he was a rower, and then he decided to retire, of course. And this is when he stepped out into adventure racing. And he was racing at the time the Red Gauloise, that well known.
Very famous.
And so he was racing Red Gauloise. I think he raced probably 10 of them, something like that. And he was on the podium for most of them because he finished like 5th time second. So he was obviously, when you come second on a Red Gauloise, you spend a lot of time training at home as well.
Right.
So this was part of our family since I was a kid. It was a lot of energy put in there. And I've been raised by seeing tents all over the floor and trying to cut on the backpacks. And so it's been part of the DNA since probably forever for me, I would say. And what I've always heard from my dad is that when he was racing in the Red Gauloise, he was always astonished by the environment of all those countries he was seeing. But something that struck him is how beautiful France was. And I think this was the beginning of Red in France. Yeah, when he started to think that he could organize instead of racing, he was he really knew that in France, he could find all those wonderful environments that he had sown all over the world. And obviously, France is, I think, very rich for this. We've got the mountains, we've got the sea. And this was the real DNA of Red in France when he started. He wanted to show how beautiful we can have environments in France and everything we can have over here. And so this was the first thing when he decided to create the race that he had in mind, trying to show people that probably a few kilometers away from a village, you would find something that is marvelous and spectacular. And I think it's really something. So I've been a volunteer on Red in France, but I've also raced some races, and it's really something that you have as a racer as well, because when you look at a map, you say, "Oh, we had raced over here. What are the village?" But we don't know them because we never go in villages. We are always in this race in the pure nature, and really it's like secluded environments, but inside the country. So this was the first thing. And I think the second one was really to put into adventure racing the challenges of orienteering, of the activities, trying to find what would be the best activity for everyone. So when he do the track, I think he has this, kind of challenge as an organizer to say, "Oh, I did found the place where no one would think we could go, but we're going." And it's always been a game for us here as a family to say, "Oh, I'm sure the next adventure race you're going to design is going to go here." And we never get it right because he's the one finding those places when you think, "Oh no, we'll never go here," but we are. So I think this is kind of, and it's been a game since the beginning, trying to find those places where no one could even imagine would be going.
Well, you talk about the idea of the of your father and the fact that he had raced the raid and he had done all of this. And time again, when I speak with adventure racers, adventure race directors, sometimes on the show and sometimes just not on the show, how many of them, they travel someplace, they do these beautiful races in these beautiful countries. And when they go home, they can't help but think to themselves, you know something, there's a mountain range there, or there's a river there, and they begin to build their own races. It is a classic story. So folks who are at home listening to this, if you're an adventure racer, feel free to bring that into your own life and to go back to your own home area and say, you know something, we can put races on here and here, because so many racers become excellent race directors because they've lived the experience. And then they drag their families along. It sounds like that was part of your reality.
Yeah, totally. And it's so true. Like now I can't help when we going around with my husband and the kids, we're just walking around and we're like, oh, look, we should go here when we'll be racing the next Fred in France. You just can't stop imagining yourself doing an adventure race in your own adventures. And that's fabulous.
It gets even more challenging here in the Northeast of the United States because it's now fall and all the leaves are off the trees. And so when you're driving, you could see all the tracks up in the mountains. And you know something, that could be a checkpoint. That could be a checkpoint. That could be a checkpoint. So you said yourself that you not only did you volunteer, you also raced raid in France. So what was your racing like?
Yeah, it was, I don't know if it would have been the same experience without being my dad being the organizer and designing this track, obviously. But it was great. And it was kind of relieving my childhood, you know, when you're dragged along by your parents on some tracks and recognitions. And then after you're a racer and you're just like, yeah, this is so good. It's so clever to put us here. And it's you're like reliving your childhood, but in better. So obviously it was great racing. And it was, I think it was very emotional at the end as well. But it tapped into what has been a huge centering point for your family's entire history. Right. Yeah. The fact that your father did these things, your parents were involved in it, your mother's heavily involved, and all of a sudden you do it as a child and you do it as an adult. It comes back full circle, and that's where you see it. Now, on that note, you know, so clearly your family, yourself included, is heavily invested in the sport of adventure racing, and you love doing it. And I'm curious as to your thoughts about adventure racing is like an advanced form of play, right? You get to go play in the woods, you get to go play in the mountains. How has that informed your non-adventure racing life? What lessons did it teach you about being a regular person? I don't know about my regular life, but what I do know is that I think adventure racing has been in my life since I was born, basically. Right. But then obviously I grew and I was teenager and I went into rowing as my dad did. And I was in national team for a few years as well. And I remember my dad always saying, it's a game, just play out there. And I was like, what is he talking about? Like it's national trials and I'm not going to play now. It's not fun. It's like real thing, you know. And now that I've been racing and I've been seeing another world that is less, probably for me, less in like performance, but more in play, I'm like, it's so much part of my life because everything in adventure racing is about playing. It's like finding the good track. You know, you find a canyon. Yeah, a canyon's fun, but what if we go up the canyon? Right. This is playful, this is fun, and this is adventure race. And so obviously when you're so close to adventure racing in your whole life, everything becomes a game. And I'm sure that in raising our kids as well, we're so much into, you can play in nature. And it's the whole point of like protecting the nature. Right. You go out there and you play with it and you know how to love it. And this is just how you enjoy it the most, I think.
And then on top of that too, the idea of play and being loose and having fun, it blows my mind when I go to a world championship or a national championship, how the team that wins that race, they always appear to be so calm and so relaxed and having so much fun with each other. Like clearly there's a performance benefit towards being that kind of attitude and then going out there and racing.
Yeah, and I totally agree because I also think it's so long. How many other sports are so long? Yeah. In what any other discipline can you find yourself being a world champion after racing a whole week? Right. I mean, you need to have fun. You need to make things fun and enjoyable if you want to do it again, and if you want to perform as well, because it's obviously like performance comes with enjoying yourself. Otherwise you can't do it, because you're investing a whole week of high performance,
right?
But also to be so performance, you have invested your whole years before training. So you need to have fun. And this is probably the best. You're just going outside in the nature, having fun.
Right. Just having a good time. And then next thing you know, you're winning world championships, right? That's the way it goes. So now Raid in France is a very, very storied, a very well-respected race organization. Give our listeners a sense of other races you've put on. Have you hosted world championships before? What other races have you done? Like, give us a bigger picture of what the organization brings to the table.
Okay, so Raid in France the first race of Raid in France was an Adventure World Series. So Raid in France has been part of the ARWS since 2007. And we've been organizing 14 events. 2 of them were World Championship, so in 2012 and in 2018. And all the others were World Series, and 1 was a European Cup. So it's been pretty much every year or every 2 years for hosting a big 1-week race.
So that's actually really, that's an impressive pedigree to bring to the table, especially hosting this year's World Championships. That clearly your family, your organization, you know what you're doing, right? You've hosted these things successfully. In your experience, what makes for a successful multi-day race, a successful World Championship? What factors does Raid in France bring to the table to make it successful?
Well, I think the race has built itself through the years. When you talk with my parents about how it was in 2007, it was nothing to do with what it is now, though it was very successful, but it was so much different. And I think organizing long-time races, you gain so much experience at once. So when you do one, then the second, you've gained so much more experience. And then when you organize a world champ, you level up your game a lot, because as we did talk before, Raid in France DNA is really about the race, the track, and the environment you're going to go through.
Right.
But when you organize a world champ, you need to think wider. So you need to organize everything a bit better. So you need to have a communication teams, you have more volunteers, you need to give food to those volunteers, you need to organize all the logistics. Yeah. And I think the team of volunteers, because it's something we need to talk about on Raid in France, it's the volunteers, it's like a family. And
always amazing, right? Yeah. Yeah. And
family.
It's amazing how they bond, that they have their own experience, the volunteers.
Yeah, exactly. When you're a volunteer, you belong to this big Raid in France family, and you have a goal, and you have you're here for a purpose. I think that's great. And the volunteers, they're so happy to be here, but they have been organized differently through the years. Right. In 2007, it was probably just a bunch of them. Now it's over 150 volunteers on each race. And so now we've got a group of volunteers, probably 10 of them, that are working on the race all year long. So they're organizing the logistic, the volunteers, the food team, the tracks, the partnerships, etc. And this is where we gain a lot of experience. Like, we know that if you want to organize a world champ, you need to have good sense of, you need to be very close to all the politics. You need to have them all behind you, because they are the ones that have the really good knowledge of where we're going. You need to take into account that you have like 25 different nations and probably 70 or 80 teams. And this is a lot different, especially in France, because in France, we've got a strong community of adventure races. So when we organize World Series, we all have a big part of the group that is the French races. And therefore, a major part of the organization is also thought for them. But when you're thinking world champ, like, you level up the game a lot. Like, you've got international teams here a lot, and you need to be international. You can't imagine your road book in France. You need to think everything in English for it to be accessible for everyone. And so you need to have everything structured and organized to welcome those teams that are going to travel through the other side of the world to come and see you. So this is a lot different. And you also know that on a world champ, you're bringing so many people on site that you need to have the politicals, you need to have the locals very involved in the race, probably more than on an adventure series, because on a world champ, they need to be part of it. They need to make the race live, because it's through them that it's the most extraordinary. You gain so much knowledge talking with them that they need to be on board.
Yeah, that was one thing I picked up in Canada this past year, was you could really get the sense that the Adventure Racing World Championship, everybody who shows up to race there is really kind of the pointy end of the spear. They're fast, they're strong, they're expecting a challenging course, they're going to work well together. And so it puts a lot of pressure on the race director to get that right? Because this isn't like a local regional race. Like, people are flying in, they're taking a week, 10 days out of their lives. They qualified to be there very often. They have the entry fee to be there. And so it's on you to deliver that. And I love the fact, and thank you for doing that you called out the volunteers so early, because the volunteers completely are the lifeblood of these races. And they're volunteers who I know already are going to be, they were in Canada, they're going to be in Corsica. Like, they love it that much.
Yeah. We're receiving weekly some task to be a volunteer on the race, and this is great. And probably something that is very important on a world champ as well, that is, you've got your group of volunteers that are always here and that have been here for 10 years, since 10 years on Rennes in France. But you've got also all the bunch of people living in Corsica saying, oh, okay, those bunch of people, they're going to go in the nature, and I want to be part of this because I want to help them build this story. And you need to take them on board. And it's very rich, but it's also very challenging, because you've got the racers who are expecting a lot, but you also have all the locals that are going to get involved in your race that expect a lot and that want you to show the best of where they live. And this is a big part of it, because they're giving you a lot. You need to give back. Right.
And the local volunteers are just so proud of their home. They love showing it off. Like, and you see it all the time. Races everywhere. I don't care how big, how small they are. Local volunteers love the fact that they're showing off their homeland to a larger audience. And so that's great. Now you mentioned it, you said Corsica. So we know that Corsica is the location for the World Championship. Tell us about Corsica and why Raid in France went there.
Well, Corsica is probably one of the most stunning places that a person could go on. It's a secluded island, but it's also so rich in history, and this is important because of course it's a French island, but even when you're French, when you come on the Corsican soil, you're not Corsican. And because they have the history, it's so strong over there, because they have put so much effort into protecting their environment. The Corsican, they know that they have like a beauty in this island, and they protect it so strongly. And this is probably why it's so pretty now. It could be very touristic, and of course it is in summer a bit, but it's so well protected. Like, you've got those mountains, those huge peaks that are very well preserved, and you've got those beach sand, like, that are so pretty, but there are as they were before all the people arrive on the island. This is probably the most magical thing about Corsica. It's pretty, but there's many pretty places on earth, but this one has been preserved. And this is probably why the locals are so strong about it. And when we first considered hosting the World Championships, our first choice was Corsica. But then it was very, very hard to set foot over there. Like, we couldn't get the good contacts, we couldn't get the politicals on board. So it was put on side for a while. And there was Nouvelle-Calédonie that was considered very strongly. The welcome was very, very good on the island. And it was, we were really going to go for Nouvelle-Calédonie for a while. But then, I don't know if you followed all the political history over there, but it's been a bit tough over there. The island's still insecure now. So we changed our mind, obviously. And we also had an issue with being so far away. Every team should have traveled a lot. And it is a concern nowadays, traveling so much, taking so much the planes for an adventure race that has to protect the environment. It's always, it's a debate. it's a debate. So probably most of teams wouldn't have travel over there. That's what we understood talking with them. So it was also something a bit concerning. And then, so we went back to Corsica. My parents put so much energy into bringing on board all the politicals.
Right.
And now it is well on the way, and we've got everyone on board, and it's even richer. It's it's hard to open the door, but when you open it, it's wide open.
Right.
And now it's good.
It's so beautiful. And going to an island nation is wild too, because even though it identifies as French, you reference that there's a separate culture that on any island that exists, they build their own culture, right? That's worldwide. That's human nature. And the fact that they've worked so hard to maintain that Corsican identity and the pride that they have, that they're very, very, because I've done some reading about the island, about the history of the island, and they're very protective of what they are and who they represent. And so the fact that you can make those inroads with the political structure, you make those inroads with the local government and inviting you in is important. And what is nice too, on top of that, and I've seen this before in many races, not just in the World Championships, how the connection to the local people is so essential to the sport, because what we don't want to do, we don't want to, arrive at a place, land, race, and fly right back out, which is something that a lot of other multi-sports do, right? They merely use these locations for the sole purpose of the time, and then they bail out. I know that ARWC has a recognized understanding that you are to connect with the local culture while you're there.
Yeah, I think and I totally agree with you. I think it's a major point in adventure racing overall, not only for a world championship, because we were talking about it before, saying knowing the nature, going into the wild, being in full immersion for a few days in the nature. This is, it's the DNA of the sport. And who else better than the local people can help you understand this and put you at the right place and help you live this adventure. So I think it's very important to have the good connections. And it's also, for example, I take the example of the World Championships in 2018 in La Réunion. It was a very hard task because it was an island as well. And it was further from France as well. So it was long flights and lots of organization in terms of logistic. For example, we had to bring a container over there to bring all our stuff for the organization. Right. But also, when we were doing the recognitions and talking with the local, we understood that they had no kayaks on the island. None. There were no kayaks over there to go paddling on the sea, for example. So it was decided with the locals to bring a container of kayaks for the adventure race, for the racers to do the race, and then to leave the kayaks on site.
I remember that. I remember reading about that.
So they could use it after in the clubs. And this is great. This goes beyond just a race. It's really making the full benefits of having the races there on site and all the equipment and all the logistic that goes with the world champs. And I think this is great. And this is how you build something strong, because even if you're not going to race in La Réunion again, you're going to race somewhere else. And you want to be part of the history where you're going.
And the goal too, which is not just adventure racing, is that anytime we intersect with an area, we want to leave it for the better. Right, no matter what it might be, and that's hardwired into the DNA. And I love that that's an expectation for the race director. Now, there are people who are listening to this podcast who are completely going to sign up for Corsica, so we have to give them a little bit of beta, a little bit of information about it, because they're already thinking about what the race is going to be like. Talk to me a bit about Corsican topography, mountains, oceans, rivers. What's it like on the island?
Okay, so we have to imagine that Corsica is like if it was a mountain in the middle of the sea. So you've got these big mountain blocks in the middle, in the heart of the island. And then it goes on each side of the island into those beautiful beaches. But that means that most of the time, when you're at the top of a mountain, you would see the sea. Well, it's quite, impressive, and it's very refreshing. So it's very beautiful, especially as well because the start of the race will be in Corte. So Corte, it's a typical little village. We will talk a bit about logistic after, but it's a small village. So it's going to start over there in this small little village in the middle of the island. It's very mountaineering over there. It's in the middle of La Vallée de la Restonica. So this valley, it's mountains and canyons a lot. So the start will be there, and the finish line will be on the seaside. So it's harder choice to put the start line and the finish line at two separate points. But this choice has been made to make sure that we cover the most part of the island. Because obviously, if you round up in circle, then you can't go as far. Right. Whereas here, it's more logistic. But
right, it's a linear race. It's point to point that way.
Yeah. So this is a major point about the race. It's going to cover most of the topography of Corsica. There's going to be mountains. There are going to be some rivers and some kayaking. There are going to be some trekkings, and I can even give you. Okay.
For the folks at home, she's peeking, I think, at a map right now, and Flavie's making a decision about how much should she say out loud on the podcast. So let's hope she overspeaks here. So feel free to say as much as you want.
So I think it's going to be about 12 sections, free of trekkings, free of mountain bike, free packraft, 2 sea kayaks, 1 canyoning plus aquatic hiking.
That's big beta. That's a lot to drop on a podcast. Very nice.
Yeah.
So now that being said, how many days is the race?
So it will be 5 days-ish for the first.
Right. 5 for the winners, right?
Yeah, and up to 8.
Gotcha. So the course is open for 8 days. You're expecting the winners after 5.
Yes, it will be around 500 kilometers. For the record, it was the previous world champs were all around 500 kilometers, and they were also 5 days long.
Gotcha. Okay, so that makes, and obviously Raid and France knows what they're doing, right? So when you say 5K and 5, yeah, you figure that out, and it, you listed all those stages. So clearly, Corsica, for being an island, has a ton of opportunity and racing resources, and just so much to cover that the teams will have their hands full the entire time.
Yeah, definitely.
So now, when is the race being held?
So it's from the 27th of September. The start will be on the 28th.
Okay.
And then ongoing for...
Right there, right. So obviously, so it's going to be late September, early. So what is the weather like in Corsica that time of the year?
So it can be very sunny and very warm. It can be like, continuity of summer. It's not likely to rain all day long for 5 days.
Got it.
It usually don't. But it can also be first signs of fall with some fresh temperature. Also, the mountains are going to be quite high. So you can expect fresh temperature up there in the mountains.
Okay.
But if it's most likely to be kind of continuity of summer with, probably a cooler weather.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's one, and also too is it's that interstitial crux time of the year where it's not quite summer, it's not quite fall, and so racers can expect a wide variety of weather. But you did point out, and hopefully this won't come back to haunt you, this isn't necessarily jungle, right? So we're not looking at days and days and days of rain, but that could happen. Though, be careful.
Yeah.
Be prepared for everything, right? That's what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. And it also sounds too with those 12 stages you listed in all those different domains, it sounds like teams really have to focus on more than just one discipline, right? They have to have their legs ready, their arms ready. They have to have their gear locked in, all of that, a true world championship. Now,
yeah, I think the environment is very challenging as well in Corsica, because it's a very rocky terrain.
Yeah, rocky and rough, right? It's an island, right? So it's rocky, it's rough.
So but there's nothing very atypical. It's going to be standard adventure race, but standard adventure race it's more than enough.
It's a standard race. Don't worry. It's nothing. It's a walk in the park. So now talk to us now. Registration. We've intentionally timed this episode to time it with registration opening up. So registration opening up. So first off, how many team spots does the race have?
So I think we're going to cap at approximately 80 teams.
Okay. So 80 teams, but registration is not purely open, right? There's going to be you're enrolling it in waves, and you want to give first preference to teams based on their ARWS rankings?
Yes, exactly. Okay. So we are opening a first waves of registration that will be linked to the world ranking, right. AR ranking. It's very important for us because it's a world championship. Mm-hmm. So it's normal to give the teams that are ranked in the AR circuit a priority. Yep. It's a way for us to value the circuit, to give some importance to it, and to bring an emulation and to level up all the teams. Right. So all the teams can register through this wave, and then we will select the 21st of the AR ranking to secure their spot on this first wave. And they will also get a preferential
right. They have a preferential rate to register. Right. Yeah. Right. And so therefore what you're doing is, and this makes a lot of sense, is that there are teams out there that have worked hard, they've trained, they've raced, they've won, they've earned the right to be given preferential registration for what's going to be a very competitive world championship to get a spot, because there's 80 teams. There's a lot of teams that are coming out for this, and you want to make certain that those teams are recognized for their hard work.
Yeah, exactly. Because some very, very strong teams could not have earned a ticket on a race, for example, and they need to secure a spot in our race. We want them there.
Gotcha. And then eventually, I'm assuming, because you're enrolling in waves, once you've gone through those various numbers, what you do then is you then open up the open registration for anybody who wants to sign up and go.
Yes, and after we open the registration, everyone can enroll, and the teams that have enrolled on the first wave, that have not been selected into the 20, will get priority.
A lot of teams may have never visited Corsica before, right? So logistically speaking, like, where do they fly into? Are there direct flights? What about hotels? Like, because right now people are going to want to come to Corsica. They're going to want to race. Beautiful race course. Radin France organizing. It's going to be a very, very popular race. But as soon as you agree to race, you then think about logistics. Like, where do you where's the airport? Where's the hotel? What will the experience be like there for people getting to and from and staying there?
Yeah, sure. That's a very fair question. So we're working a lot on this to make everything easier for everyone, for the European teams, but also for the international teams. What we can say from now is that for the European teams, we advise all of them to take the boat. Mm-hmm. This is kind of also a good way of traveling, because you take the boat from France at night, then you travel through the night and you arrive early morning in Corsica. Ideally, the boat.
That is so cool. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. That is so cool that's how they're going to get to the race. They're going to leave overnight and they're going to take a boat to an island to do a world championship. I apologize for cutting you off. That is just so darn cool that's going to happen. I'm sorry. I do appreciate you like it that much, because so do I. That is so cool.
Especially like when you arrive over there in Bastia, most of the time it's sunny and you can take breakfast in the harbor before you leave for the race. I mean, pure magic.
So cool. So cool. Okay. You were saying, okay. So one choice is that people who are coming from France, if they so choose, French racers or not, they can navigate through the French countryside, get to the sea, and then take a boat into Corsica.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
One option.
Yeah,
okay.
This is easy if you can reach France by car, because you can put your car on the boat as well and then have all your equipment with you.
Oh, that's really cool, by the way. That's actually really good.
It's very easy. I think it's very easy this way. And the closest harbor to the start of the race is Bastia. So the start of the race will be in Corte. So we advise you to arrive in Bastia. Then when you start planning your routes for Corsica, a very important thing on the island is to think in times of driving and not in kilometers. It takes a lot of time to travel, but you need to make sure that you've got your timings before you organize everything. But Bastia is definitely the closest to Corte.
Gotcha.
So when you arrive in Bastia, you can reach Corte by car. And in Corte, it's a small village, as we said before. It's a typical Corsican village, but it's rather small. It's very historical. It's like the capital of Corsica in terms of history.
Right.
Many things happened over there during all the history of Corsica. So it's a strong village, and there is loads of things happening in Corte, but it's not big in terms of infrastructure, in terms of hotel, etc.
It's an island village. That's what happens. Yeah. Okay. But to your point, because the race is in September, October, the island's not as busy, because I'm sure it's very busy in the summer.
However, we estimate that the entire organization of the World Champ, being the volunteers, the races, and all the families, or people traveling with the teams, we expect that it will take the entire capacity of Corte.
Yeah, it's almost 1,000 people when you think about it, right? 80 teams, 4 people to a team, plus family, plus volunteers. It's 750, 1,000 people. Okay.
Exactly. So if the team want choice of where they go, they need to get ready quite early.
Got to go early. Okay.
Yeah. I will probably talk about it a bit after, but we've built a website and we're putting all our information on the website. We've been working with Centre Corse. This is the tourist information that works with Corte. And they are currently translated their website into English to facilitate everything for the international teams. But we've got a contact in Corte that you can also reach. It's on our website, and they will help organizing, the accommodations and everything. And they speak English.
This is going to be something new for the island.
Well, they do. They hold some very famous events, and they are used to having some events over there. However, this is an event of its own, and also for the village, for Corte, it's something new. So they're investing a lot as well for this race. What is good, I mean, it's very touristic island, and they're only now Centre Corse translating their website. So it's a good thing.
But they have to love it though, because Raid in France, which is a French company, is bringing an off-season group of almost 1,000 people to the island. So for them, it's a home run.
Yeah, exactly. And they're very enthusiastic about it as well. Corte, they're very, very happy to have us there. So they can help all the teams as well, getting organized around the village for their accommodation, for example. And it's good to know, when you're stepping into an island that you've never been to have a contact over there.
It sounds like there's a lot of goodwill, or also inviting everybody and looking to host and looking to have a good time with everybody.
Yeah.
It's great. That's great stuff. I love it. I always, when I would describe adventure racing to a local group, a town, I would say the circus is coming to town. Like, everybody's showing up here. It's going to be hundreds of people. They're going to be the fittest people in the world with all of this gear, and they're going to carry all these boxes. And the local people they love it. They love it. I've seen it in every place we've gone. When a race shows up into the town, they love showing their town off, and they're amazed by adventure racers. And so I love the fact that, with all the choice that you had in France of all the places to go, that such a unique area with so much history is going to be where the race is going to be.
That's totally true. Yeah.
Is there something that I haven't asked about the race that you want to say out loud? Anything I left out?
I can just probably clarify as well 2 points about the logistics. For the international teams that can't take the boat, they can take the plane. And if they arrive, they can arrive at Bastia or Ajaccio, both are fine. But we have a partner with Hertz, that is a local company for renting cars.
Got it.
And they will get 30% of all rentals.
Okay.
So this is a good option for international teams that want to organize their stay in Corsica. And for the finish line will be in Île-Rousse. This is a city that is on the sea. Yeah, it's next to the sea. And this is a much more touristic area. During summer, it's packed. There's a lot of people, so there are far more accommodation. It's used to have so much people in it, so it's easier to get organized over this area. And obviously for those, I can imagine the teams wondering, but how are we going to organize with our car in Corte, arriving in Île-Rousse, etc. So obviously the organization will organize some shuttles to bring back all the races to Corte.
Yeah. I mean, the way to look at it too is that Raid in France, who by my count, starting for the past 19 years, has hosted 2 world championships, 1 European championship, as well as multiple 5-day races, that you guys know what you're doing, right?
Hope so.
Exactly. And so therefore, so for the folks who, the hardest part of a race is getting to the race, right? And then sometimes the racing feels easier. All of those wraparound needs, right? Organizing for lodging, getting a rental car. Do you take the boat? Do you take the plane? That Raid in France recognizes the commitment that people are making to come to the race. And so therefore, the communication, the understanding, all of that will happen along the way. And then what the racers are treated to, they're treated this amazing experience where they get to go to this historical, beautiful island, which has so much history on it, and then do this amazing race and take part in a world championship. I mean, it sounds like a perfect thing to do. I mean, I know I'm a big fan of adventure racing, and I love this stuff, and I can't talk enough about it, but like, I struggle to find a cooler setup to go do a race.
Yeah. No, yeah, and it's also, I totally get you when you say like, it's probably sometimes the hardest to get to the race. Yeah. There's so many things to think about, like packing your equipment and getting organized and traveling. And so we want to make sure that when they arrive closer to the start line, we're here to help, right. Like make the racer's life easier. Right.
And there's always something always goes crazy. Some bag is left behind in Paris, the car breaks down, and then the group kind of comes together and takes care of that person.
Yeah.
Well, I am grateful for your time on the Dark Zone. This will be coincided with the opening of registration. So I look forward to seeing those 80 teams fill the spaces up. Before I let you go, and I know it's nighttime, it's late for you, before I let you go, is there any other closing thoughts that I don't want to leave behind?
No, I think we've covered it all. And I hope we'll have a great World Championship.
I'm going to say it better myself. Thank you so much for being on the show. Well, there you have it, folks. Another great episode with Flavie Bahuaud from Raid in France. Grateful to Flavie for coming on the show. She had a young children at home. It was late for her, and she was gracious and thoughtful with her time. And we are excited to talk a lot more about the Adventure Racer World Championships coming to Corsica in 2026. Be sure to check out those show notes, put all those links in there to check out the information and the registration and all of that. Thank you, as always, for being a listener of The Dark Zone. We appreciate your time. We know you have a lot of choices, places to spend your time and put your ears into all of that. And we love having you here, and we love the sport. And remember, as always, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking.